umpire calls in a professional baseball game can cause a lot of controversy and uproar amongst eager fans and members of the sports teams. So my opponent suggests that there should be an extension of instant replay time in Major League Baseball as a preventative way of such controversy. And one of his major claims was the expansion of Major League replay is practical, and he suggested this by that there is enough technology out there to use. There's enough technology out there to prove otherwise. And there are plenty of video footage, and his secondary claim was that replay time would take little or no time. And he also had mentioned that his third claim was that he gave examples that non-expanded forms of instant replay where there wasn't a sufficient way to prove the extended form. So in his first claim, the expansion of instant replay is practical. He only gave hypothetical instances. He never gave concrete proof proving that it would be practical. He had suggested that we have the technology today available to prove that the calls were botched, but at the same time, that's all he said. He just said we have the technology available. He never mentioned what type of technology, how it would be used, any time differences that it would make. And even then, nowadays, a lot of video footage can be botched also. And he also mentioned that it would take only an average of 15 minutes per game. But at the same time, I looked at his evidence, and there wasn't any proof saying why it would take 15 minutes. In one of his citations, there was a link giving an article where it gave an article of every instance where there was a replay, and there were a total of 148 of them. And unless he actually found the average himself, then that's the only place where he could come with 15 minutes. But I went through most of them, and there are instances where one replay took 15 minutes or 12 minutes. Like the least amount of time, it was 2 minutes. And although this seems like a little amount of time, this is just for one play. So he wants to expand the play to not just only home run calls, but he wants to make it to just several calls, like on plate calls, foul balls, and this would be like three calls would put an hour and a half in the game. So this would significantly extend the game. And a baseball game is already an average of 3 hours. And this is not counting a game that's in the World Series. And his third claim, he gave examples of how non-expanded forms of instant replay were successful. So these were instances in non-expanded forms. So this, in turn, doesn't have anything to do with why it should be extended, because the extended form would significantly be different than just where there's only one call made, and it was just based on a home run call. So, and then he also claimed that the originality of the game would be affected, would not be affected, but it would be. Like there is a group of fans called the traditionalists, and they suggest that the excitement associated with like controversial calls or like the uproar of the fans or even of the coaches themselves would be over, and this would actually put a hindrance on the originality of each game. Yeah.
All right, I like the idea of the visualization that you have at the beginning, that this is really part of an uproar because of controversial calls. And I think there's a good argument to be made here that that's really part of the game, and the controversy is something that you don't necessarily want to get away with. That's in fact what you come up with at the end of the argument when you've got this kind of counterclaim about the traditionalists and the notion that each game is organic and original, and that's one of the things that makes the game important and different, and that in essence that this activity, this increased use of the video replay would create some problem there. And I like the idea there. I think it needs to be developed a little bit more in both places. There's a preview of what the advocates' points are, and I thought your signposting on the first point was really clear, but after that it did seem sometimes like it just went from argument to argument, and I'm not sure if you were following the structure of the advocate or you're just randomly Gesundheit running through a series of claims that you have, and so I thought that it broke down a little bit. I did think that you had some interesting challenges to make. On the first point, you're talking about how all of this evidence is hypothetical. It could be interesting to present some counter-hypotheticals. You don't really do that. I do think you asked some legitimate questions, but remember, questions don't end up being very useful if you don't make some inferences from what the potential answers are there. The time factor thing I thought was your clearest argument, suggesting that there is likely to be a substantial increase in time. It directly contradicts the advocate's claim. You had a couple of examples that you cited. You do want to give us the source for the information that was cited by the advocate and that you appear to be citing as well. Like I said, I like the argument at the end, but it seems like it's an independent argument separate from the claims that are being presented. Your delivery could be a little bit more forceful, and I just thought your exit, it just seemed like you were done all of a sudden. There's not really a summary, there's not really an attempt to sell the argument one more time, and you have a little bit more time, so I think that that's something that you could do to make your argument more effective. All right.